Folks, more governors have decided to allocate unused crisis relief funds for another round of stimulus checks for their residents. And this is good news for thousands of Americans. We can be receiving a stimulus check very soon, everybody, so you want to be sure to stay until the end of the video to find out the most important stimulus news. Now, the Massachusetts governor has signed the nearly $4 billion spending bill that will put federal recovery dollars and state budget surplus funds into the hands of towns, schools, and small businesses. The governor of Massachusetts wrote in a letter that this bill directs funding to key priorities in need of support as Massachusetts continues its recovery from the crisis, and invests substantially in healthcare, housing, and home ownership. Folks, is your governor doing the same thing? Is your governor sending out their own state stimulus checks? Tell me in the comments below. The governor of Massachusetts also said that we could send out $500 checks to almost 1 million Massachusetts residents as soon as possible. Now, the Texas governor has also signed a bill into law that will allocate the nearly $16 billion in funding awarded to the state earlier this year through the Federal American Rescue Plan Act. That was a stimulus package signed by Biden back in March 2021. According to the governor, the bill allocates funding support for Texans in need, including veterans, rural communities, and small businesses. Now, the last round of Golden State stimulus checks are set to be delivered in the coming weeks. Around 900,000 checks worth up to $1,100 are expected to be delivered before New Year's Eve. California has estimated that around 9 million people are eligible to receive the checks. The last round of payments began December 10th and included nearly $575 million in funds. Around 800,000 total payments have been or will be issued this round, including around 90,000 direct deposits worth about $6.1 million. In total, California has issued or announced 8.1 million second Golden State stimulus payments worth around $5.8 billion total. That comes as payments have been sent out by zip code. There's just one round left to be issued. According to the California Franchise Tax Board website, the Golden State stimulus payments aim to support low-income residents of California. Folks, it is definitely a good idea for President Biden to send out the stimulus checks. Do you believe that President Biden is doing all that it takes to send out the stimulus checks, everybody? Tell me in the comments below. Now, the latest stimulus checks have been sent to 500,000 Americans, and these are called the plus-up payments. Very important information, everybody. So these are additional stimulus checks that are sent out to people who sent a stimulus check based on their 2019 tax return. When stimulus checks were introduced at the beginning of the crisis, they were given out based on the most recent tax return on file. Some may have received a lower amount than they were entitled to, due to the fact that the amount was based on an outdated tax return. So, according to officials, families with students who received electronic benefits for the 2020 to 2021 school year can access new funds on their existing cards. This benefit will help children that are in school. That's good, everybody. This is definitely great news, and I believe that President Biden should definitely send out more stimulus payments for the end of the year. If you guys agree, then tell me in the comments down below.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for your presence. We had a robust caucus meeting today featuring presentations from the White House, Cecile Rouse, the chair of the Council of Economic Advisors, Brian Deese, senior advisor and director with respect to the White House Economic Council, as well as from the White House Communications Director. I think we as Democrats understand, led by President Biden here in the House and over on the other side of the Capitol in the Senate, that the American people are struggling with rising costs and inflationary pressures that relate to the supply chain and relate to some price gouging that is taking place by people who worship at the altar of greed in a way that is hurting consumers, hurting farmers, hurting ranchers, and others. The American people are feeling the pain of these inflationary pressures, and the White House is taking decisive action. It's also why it's important for us to get the Build Back Better Act over the finish line. The Build Back Better Act will lower costs for hardworking Americans, lower child care costs, lower energy costs, and lower healthcare costs, including the high price of life-saving prescription drugs, and relieve the pressure that everyday Americans are experiencing. And it's a shame that instead of working with Democrats to try to address the issues confronting the American people with respect to inflation, they continue to fan the flames of dissension and focus on everything other than jobs, the economy, and inflation. But we're going to continue to get our work done for the people. Later on this afternoon, we will take up the censure resolution with respect to holding the former White House Chief of Staff in criminal contempt for his obstruction and his indifference to the rule of law. And we will also condemn, hopefully in a bipartisan way, Islamophobia, and make it clear that attacks on anyone's religion are inconsistent with who we are as a nation and the principle of freedom of religion in a pluralistic society. That is what the United States of America is all about. It's a founding principle of this great country. We yield now to our distinguished vice chair and a distinguished member of the January 6th Select Committee. We're so thankful for their work and for Pete Aguilar's work on behalf of our democracy.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As the chairman mentioned, we're focused on the task at head, but on behalf of the chairman and the Democratic caucus, we want to extend our condolences to all of those who suffered during the tornadoes. Incredibly tragic, and for those folks who are dealing with this during the holiday season, our hearts go out to them. As the chairman mentioned, we're dealing with some very weighty topics this week, but it's not lost on us the week that we had last week as well, dealing with the debt limit, passing the National Defense Authorization Act. This Congress continues to get things done. Yesterday, as the chairman mentioned, the Select Committee voted to hold the former Chief of Staff, Mark Meadows, in contempt. Mr. Meadows has shown that he will not cooperate with the committee's work. And we are now asking our colleagues on the floor to pass the same vote to hold him in contempt. He has no problem sharing details of his interactions with the former president in his book, if you buy it for $25, but he does not want to come before the committee to have those same conversations. The chairman also mentioned that we're going to extend the
Folks, more governors have decided to allocate unused crisis relief funds for another round of stimulus checks for their residents. And this is good news for thousands of Americans. We can be receiving a stimulus check very soon, everybody, so you want to be sure to stay until the end of the video to find out the most important stimulus news. Now, the Massachusetts governor has signed the nearly $4 billion spending bill that will put federal recovery dollars and state budget surplus funds into the hands of towns, schools, and small businesses. The governor of Massachusetts wrote in a letter that this bill directs funding to key priorities in need of support as Massachusetts continues its recovery from the crisis, and invests substantially in healthcare, housing, and home ownership. Folks, is your governor doing the same thing? Is your governor sending out their own state stimulus checks? Tell me in the comments below. The governor of Massachusetts also said that we could send out $500 checks to almost 1 million Massachusetts residents as soon as possible. Now, the Texas governor has also